Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope finally comes out next month, and it's honestly been one of my most anticipated games of this year. Coming off the success of one of the most unlikely sleeper hits from the Switch's launch year, this game is shaping up to be another hit for both Ubisoft and Nintendo. So with that being said, I figured now would be a good time to sort of dive into this sub-series and how it quite possibly may have changed how Nintendo handles their IP. How's it going, everybody? The name's Doka, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite Switch games, if not one of my favorite games in the past decade. So Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle came out of nowhere back in 2017. It leaked a little bit before its initial reveal, and I remember myself, as well as a large portion of the internet, being very confused and taken aback by this super bizarre concept. However, the initial reveal, it seemed to make a lot of those concerns go away, and by the time the game was actually released, well, we had a surprise hit on our hands. Never in a million years would I have ever thought that Mario crossing over with the Rabbids would have been a good idea. Mario and Rayman? Yeah, you could have sold me on that, seeing as they're both platforming focused, but the Rabbids? Hell no. And the game was a completely new genre for both respective franchises, being an XCOM clone? Without seeing it in action or playing it myself, I would have assumed for this game to have been a complete dumpster fire. Instead, I played one of the most charming and fun gaming experiences in years. And I think that's why the game worked so well. Sure, the gameplay was fun and polished, but it was the writing and overall game direction that carried this game in my opinion. The whimsical nature of Mario's universe combined with the over-the-top chaos that the Rabbids bring to the table made for a really fun and interesting world to explore. Not to mention the Mario cast interacting with the Rabbids in general. That alone felt worth the price of admission. The team at Ubisoft Milan had so much passion for both these worlds, and you can see the love they put into this game, and right now, it looks like that passion is going to shine even more in the sequel. The Rabbids are getting way more fleshed out and seem to have full-blown characterization this time around, rather than just following the generic character tropes of their counterparts. Not to mention that everything in terms of gameplay got expanded upon way more than it was in the first entry. With the first game, a lot of people compared it to existing strategy games, the most notable being XCOM. And while these comparisons weren't any sort of criticisms against the game, Sparks of Hope seems to be trying to move away from these inspirations a bit more and form its own distinct identity. The ability to have free range of movement in the battlefield as opposed to the original grid-based system is definitely a nice change of pace, and the addition of Sparks as sort of the enhancements to existing character abilities really adds more depth to the combat in the game. But the new changes go beyond just the combat. The overworld seems to have a lot more stuff to do this time around. There's a much larger emphasis on exploration, and there are even fleshed out Rabbid NPCs with their own unique identities and even side quests for you to take on. Ubisoft Milan seemed to go all out with this entry, and it seems like this could be where the studio gets to do way more experimental stuff with this game after the first entry proved to be a formula that worked extremely well. Now they just have to build upon it. I can't wait to get my hands on this game, and I plan on doing another video talking about Sparks of Hope more in depth once the game comes out, but right now I want to move away from Mario plus Rabbids a bit and talk about the other point I wanted to make in this video. So Mario plus Rabbids seems like Nintendo managed to capture lightning in a bottle, and that's what I find so interesting about all this. It wasn't even made by Nintendo. Sure, Miyamoto had some oversight on the project, but this was a Ubisoft-made product, and yet it perfectly captured the same charm that Nintendo has been doing for years with Mario. I even remember there being an anecdote from Miyamoto suggesting that he thought the Mario model Ubisoft Milan used for the game came from Nintendo themselves despite the models being made from the ground up. It was really nice to see that Nintendo didn't just allow another company to use their IP, it was made by a team who were genuine fans of Mario and Nintendo. So the point I'm trying to make is that I think Nintendo should start letting other studios, big or small, develop new games about their IP. No, I'm not talking about stuff like WayForward doing the Advance Wars remake or even Grezzo handling a lot of the Zelda stuff. No, I'm talking about full-blown games made outside of Nintendo's direct studios. One example besides Mario Rabbids that comes to mind for me is something like Cadence of Hyrule. This game was made by an external studio, and an indie studio at that, which managed to take The Legend of Zelda and translate it to the existing Crypt of the Necrodancer rhythm game style. This was yet another game that sort of came out of left field, and yet it still felt like something that felt perfectly at home as an entry in the Zelda series because it was something that was clearly made out of love and passion for that IP. Now, I'm not saying that Nintendo should just license out their IP to other studios studios like how, for example, Disney does with stuff like Star Wars and Marvel, but I definitely think that if other studios have an exciting pitch for a Nintendo franchise and the respect for it is obviously there, then I think Nintendo should start to take a chance and allow for more experimental titles with their IP. And Nintendo is no stranger to experimentation by any means, but I genuinely think that if Nintendo opened up to have other studios develop titles for their various franchises, potentially some with genres outside of Nintendo's wheelhouse, this would allow for experimentation with these franchises without the need for Nintendo to dedicate their own resources on spin-offs that may or may not end up being successful. And I really want this to happen because there are so many Nintendo franchises that I want to see get a little bit more experimental. Give us a Xenoblade Rhythm game by the studio that did Theatrhythm. Have Maxis and EA make a Splatoon sim-like game where we get to live in Inkopolis. Or even go back to what started the idea of Nintendo games made by other studios and let Square take another crack at making another Super Mario RPG. The possibilities are endless, and I think that's why I love this concept so much. It's what I love about Nintendo in the first place. New experiences that I never knew I would have wanted until I played them. Just fun and interesting gaming experiences that explore these franchises beyond their status quo. That's all I want to see. And I do think that we will get to see more of this if games like Mario plus Rabbids and Cadence of Hyrule are anything to go by. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. So if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and give your own ideas for Nintendo spin-offs or collaborations you would like to see down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Later.